Okay, so a big thing that you hear happen towards the second half of this whole song, there's a lot of really quick strumming with mutes in them. So this comes up a lot in a lot of rock songs. Like there's a ton of AC/DC, Zeppelin, and stuff where you see this kind of down up strumming with mutes. It sounds like between the chords. So the first place we see this is the B to E to B. So a little bit before we were just playing B, E, B to get used to switching between. But once you're really solid on the fretboard there, you can think about what's going on with your right hand. So what we want to do is kind of create a sequence here. So you'll start with your B, a down strum on that, and then you want to mute the chord by lifting up and kind of flattening out your hand. So you can try just doing this to get that mute sound. You don't want any strings ringing out. So first you could try playing a B and then strumming up with a mute. Down ringing, up mute. Back and forth there. So that's the first thing to practice, is just getting that mute. So after you can go chord mute, we want to double up on the mute with an up down. Like that. So strum, up, down on the mute. Strum. Next layer will be adding your strum again. So strum, mute, mute, strum, mute, mute. When I say strum there, I mean hitting the open chord. Obviously we're strumming all the way through this. So strum, mute, mute, strum, mute, mute. So we got strum, mute, mute, but the order is going to feel like it's reversing here because we're just keeping a down up motion going in the right hand. So strum the chord, up, down, strum the chord, up, mute, down, up. Kind of reverses. So at first this can be really tricky and feel really weird, but once you get this down to muscle memory, you'll be surprised how it feels just so natural. Like that's the full measure there. B, E, B, but put those two mutes between each chord. B, mute, mute, E, mute, mute, B, B, mute, mute, E, mute, B. So I'm lifting up my hand here and laying it flat against the strings to get a solid mute, and work that one layer at a time. First, just get used to playing the chord, strumming up with a mute. Then play the chord, up, down with the mute. After that, you can jump into switching to the next chord. So B, mute, mute, E, mute, mute, B, mute, mute. So, and remember that it might feel weird where you go to that next chord. When you go to that E chord, it's an up strum, down mute, up mute, back to the B. Have fun with that. Now we can talk about everything that takes us to the end of the song, towards the solo section, where there's a lot of these quick changes. So we have the chord changes with the mutes between, like B, 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 and then we're taking that same idea actually down the fretboard. But let's recap and work to that point. So the third line is where that F sharp comes in. So let's go ahead and look at that. Couldn't split up Cato and Nash. Does it again. Couldn't split up Tango and Cash. The fourth line starts with an E, so we can go right there, 7th fret, and play that, let that ring for 4 beats. So this is our song of down to B, result in joy, cause now the F sharp again, F sharp, down to E, then B, E, B. So after that time, now we're on to the next line where it's A to D to A. So that's we still want to remember that as A, D, and A once we get there, but to get there, we can just move these chord switches down to the 5th fret. So we just did B to E on fret 7. Let's go to fret 5 and do the same thing where we're moving from the low E to the A string to the low E string. That's A to D to A. Then it goes down to the 3rd fret, same idea. But here, we don't need to put the mutes between because the chord changes are so quick. So here, we've got one bar that has G, C, G, C, D, A, E. So these are 8th notes, really. We want to count this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So the sequence here, we'll do this a couple ways because this is like by far the trickiest part of the whole song. So it starts on G, which is the 3rd fret, low E. Again, we're talking about where that first finger is. G, move it a string higher with each finger. That's C, back down, G, then C again. Then we come up to D, so we're already, first finger's already on that A string, we just want to slide up to the 5th fret, the next dot, for D, and then down to A, so that's a movement down to the low E string there, then finally up to E. So that sequence again is G, C, G, C, slide up to D, down to A, then finally E on the 7th fret A string. So a good way to practice this is going to be your first finger, G, C, G, C, up to D, down to A, then E. And I'm doing this all with down strumming too. Notice the little gap before we hit that final E chord. So since we're thinking of this as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and that 4, the 4th beat is actually where that gap's gonna go. So it can be really tricky to do that on the fly, a quick tempo, but we just want to think of separating that A and the E with a 8th note separation there, or a gap of an 8th note, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and that last E is right before the next bar. There it is. So that gets you through just that one quick bar, G, C, D, A, E, and then you land on a B for the next measure after that. And there's some strumming going on there too. So I'll just keep it at that for now. Those quick changes, because then we're going to a B. So to practice that, just hit your B and let that ring afterward. G, C, D, A, E, B, 2, 3, 4. Do it again. And 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So getting those quick changes down will, well, yeah, that's the toughest part of the whole song, if you ask me. Going on to the next 2 lines is following the same idea of E down to B, then we have D, A, B, 2, 3, 4, last line, E, then to B, 3, 4, D, A, then the last, we'll hit that B again to finish the whole thing out. the mutes there too, just like we did on it before, and it brings that back. Right on.